This is the Amp'd UP211 Podcast, where we go beyond limb loss and into the stories of resilience, reinvention, and raw humanity. Today's guest, Mark Ksobiech, lost his leg and shed over 200 pounds, but his real transformation happened on the inside. In this episode, we dive into the mental battles, the quiet wins, and what it really means to keep beginning again. Mark doesn't just want to wear a prosthesis, he lives in it. And every choice he makes is part of becoming something stronger. This is where the real work happens. This is the Amp'd UP211 Podcast. Hey everyone, we've got Mark Ksobiech here today. Mark, how are you this morning?
Doing very good, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Welcome to the Amp'd UP211 Podcast. And I really appreciate you willing to come and bare your soul, as we say in the podcast world. Right out of the gate, let's talk about, I have a two-pronged question. When did your weight loss journey start, and what have you lost to date?
My weight loss journey started about almost 6 years ago now. It was after the amputation. That's when I gained. I was always kind of a little bit heavier, but I gained a lot more after the amputation. Just depression and drinking and all that. But to date, I've lost a little over 260 pounds.
Holy cow! Yeah, you lost a good sized man.
Person. I did. I got that monkey off my back.
It's incredible. And, weight loss, just as a discipline, amputee or not, it's hella challenging, man. It's tough. And whether you're trying to lose, 250 pounds or 25 pounds, it can be incredibly difficult. And I'm no stranger to that struggle. There have been times where I set fitness goals for myself, and as I'm getting older, it's harder and harder to shed the weight that you want to and do it in a way that's healthy, which from what I can tell, based on your social media and the kind of kudos that you're getting, you're doing it right. And I appreciate how forthcoming you are in what a lot of people, consider to be a very vulnerable space when we start talking about things like body image, because let's face it, becoming an amputee is hard enough. Now, dealing with the fact, like you just mentioned, hey, and then I put on a bunch of weight, and then it became, okay, how am I going to reverse that process? And not just reverse it, but master it in a way. So I think where I want to start with you is, what was the turning point for you when you said, all right, enough's enough. Like, I've got to fix this. I'm an amputee. How am I going to get off this necessary weight? When was that moment for you? Or was it a series of moments?
There was actually two triggers that really stand out to me that I can remember. One was on the side of my son's football game, watching one of his games on a Saturday morning, sitting in my scooter because I literally couldn't stand for more than 10 minutes without excruciating back pain. And I didn't know if that was between all the amputation, hip alignment, all that. It was all the weight, everything. Any problem I had ended up being the weight. And I just, I was looking across the field and I saw dads playing with their kids and, just being active dads. And I wasn't. And then I was just thinking about it. I'm like, as the man of the house, I can't even protect my family right now. How pathetic is that? So that was a big moment. And then another moment was after, I lost my foot due to charcot foot. You might have heard of that.
Oh, absolutely.
And it wasn't diabetes, wasn't anything like that.
Yeah, charcot can show up for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I am familiar with the disorder.
I still have, my doctor at the VA still tells me, oh, you're going to lose another foot. You're going to lose it. But I lost this foot, and then, I went back to work. I was a maintenance mechanic for 20 some years, love what I did. And then the other foot started falling apart too. So they had to fuse that and put a plate in there. And after surgery, I was trying to transfer myself from my bed to my wheelchair, like literally just enough, just slide my butt off of it. And I was so heavy and so out of shape. I could barely, I'm watching and my dad's watching me and my wife's watching me, and I could barely just like slide myself off the bed onto the wheelchair. And those are the two moments that stick out, you know, in my mind, like front and center. And that's really when I decided, like, I gotta do something here. This is no way to live.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people go through, similar experiences. There's that, man, something's got to give here kind of moment. And we're all challenged in terms of mobility when we become amputees. And there are so many people in this community that, end up with amputations due to, let's say, circulatory types of disorders. Diabetes is obviously a very, ranks very high as far as amputations. And often when people enter this particular community, they're not in the best of shape physically to begin with. So you're sort of starting at a massive disadvantage, which, really, really sort of stacks the deck against you. And do you feel like, now that you're in a very much healthier space, do you feel like thriving as an amputee could be considered largely dependent on increasing your fitness level, finding your best self physically in order to make all of the normal challenges of being an amputee work for you?
100%. I think that our personal health, I mean, now that I've experienced both sides of it, has that tremendous impact on how everything goes. I mean, even one thing I've noticed with my weight loss journey is I'm also an alcoholic, sober 4.5 years now. But
Congratulations.
thank you, through my experience with AA and my health journey, it doesn't matter. Like the people that quit drinking, but yet don't take care of themselves, they never truly feel good, not about themselves, not about anything, and they're very, very likely to relapse. Like relapse is I'd say a lot more people relapse than don't. So I would have to say that everything hinges off of, I mean, how you feel. Like if you invest in yourself, which is, like you said before, it's hard. The health journey is hard. Our health's like laundry. Okay. It's never done. But if you can do that, so many people worry about, well, I got to take care of this person. I got to take care of that person. I got to take care of this person first. If you take care of yourself first, you will be able to do that job. Take care of that person first. You will show up better for your wife and your family and your kids. I mean, everything it's a snowball effect. If you just focus on take care of yourself first.
Yeah. And I so often talk to amputees, new amputees, and I'll just come right out and ask them, Mark, I'm like, what's your fitness level like right now? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm an amputee. I'm like, no. That's not what I'm talking about. What were your lifestyle choices before you became an amputee? How active were you? And I don't mean were you training to be, an Olympic athlete. I'm just talking about what was your daily activity? Did you go for walks? Did you, park further away from the building so that you could walk in? Did you ever ride a bike? Did you go to the gym once in a while? Did you participate in activities that created an active lifestyle? And I've been sort of, questioned like, well, why are you asking me that? And I'll just be really honest and say, because that is a huge predictor of how this is going to go for you. Because if your general health already, let's say, is a little higher on the spectrum, there's a very good chance that your outcomes will be good. But if you're very low on that spectrum, you're going to struggle. You are going to struggle. And you are a testament, to that struggle, because you became an amputee, you developed a terrible chronic illness that took part of your body. And I'm guessing that maybe given, substance abuse, given all the mental challenges of becoming an amputee, you sort of went into an even darker space, gained weight, got into sort of a, this is going very terribly for me and is going to continue to go terribly for me. But then you had those light bulb moments, and thank goodness you listened. And you're that intuitive voice, right? We always have that goes, yeah, man, you got to do something about this. You got to do something about this, right? Because we all hear it. The question is, do we listen or do we just tune it out? like stop talking to me. I already know that. And you listened, and look at yourself now, this many years later, and you're serving as light and support for the community, and people are seeing your progress and they're celebrating it. And I'm sure you've inspired plenty of people to get back on whatever horse they had gotten off of, and they're seeking out their best selves again. And how does that make you feel when you hear those stories?
That fills my cup. Like when I working with my clients, and even if you're just following my page and we're not working directly, I get messages all the time about how I've impacted somebody or motivated them, and honestly, that's what continues. I mean, that's why I continue to share and live out loud. I mean, even when I had the surgery and took my shirt off, it's like I've never done any of that stuff before, and if I keep this stuff to myself, who's it? I mean, who's it going to help? And it's been just, I mean, so life changing. It's life changing for everybody, but us as an amputee community, the lighter we are, the better everything's going to be. I mean, I remember when I first got fitted, there was like 1 or 2 feet that would support my weight. So the selection of feet and just sockets and you name it, just kept opening up more and more and more. I mean, the lighter I got, just the mobility and the options there for me, because of there wasn't the weight restrictions on everything.
I would imagine
these,
that your residual limb has probably gone through just an unbelievable transformation, given just the normal progression, which all amputees go through, but the fact that you experienced such a dramatic amount of weight loss. I'm sure you look back and go, wow, like somehow I fit that leg into a socket, and now
I wish
I've got this leg,
Sorry, I wish I would have saved it. But my first socket, I remember when they handed it to me, it looked like you put a 5-gallon bucket on the end of a pole. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not like any prosthetic I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And now my prosthetic looks like a prosthetic, doesn't it? I wish I would have saved that just for
yeah,
visual purposes.
It's another great, split screen before and after kind of shot.
Yeah.
Here's where I started. Here's where I am now. And you probably look at your prosthesis now and you think, gosh, like this thing is tiny compared to what I was donning before. And I would think
could probably fit this one inside the other one.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And I would think just managing fluid as someone in that weight category has got to be very, very difficult, because there's always the challenges of fluid transfer when we become new amputees. But I would think, given the size of your limb, because as humans, I mean, we're predominantly made of water. And a lot of that tends to shift once we start, jamming our limbs into these very confined spaces, right? Because the body adapts and like figures out like, okay, I guess I'm in here now and I'm just going to sort of reshape myself. But I would think for someone that size, that's tricky. I mean, that's, and, kudos that you were even willing at that size to don a prosthesis. I mean that, because I'll be honest, I've met a few amps that are like, I can't. I just it doesn't work for me. I just can't. I can't wear it. I can't walk in it. It's non-functional. So obviously you from the start you have a lot of determination. Like even in this physical state that I'm in, oh, I'm going to do it anyway. Do you feel like that's something that might have led to your resolve in terms of weight loss?
Oh yeah, I could see the disbelief in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah.
And the thing I like doing is tell me I can't do something. Just like my doctor at the VA. I mean, I see a private care that's actually the guy that saved my foot, because with this original amputation, I was very badly lied to by some doctors, and I'm not trying to throw any bad light at anything, but it was a bad circumstance there. So then when I found somebody that really, really cared, he's the reason I still have my foot. So I see him privately, and then I see the VA doctor just so I can get my inserts and whatnot. And it doesn't matter what changes I make, that guy still tells me I'm going to lose my foot. So, just, you got to block that stuff out. You can't let people dictate how you're going to live
What's the
and what
thing?
and what's going to scare you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. What's the thing that surprised you most about being an amputee?
Nobody's asked me that question before.
I mean, did you have any of those like, what the fuck moments? Like, what on earth? Like, I never expected this. And that might even be out of the realm of physical. Because I know for me, a lot of my, WTF moments were like mental.
Well, if you think about it that way, I have thought about it before, where if it wasn't for this amputation, would I have lost all the weight? Would I be on this journey where I be am right where maybe that's the driving force I needed to make all these changes and to do all this.
Yeah, would I be on a
You know?
podcast talking to the community right now?
Yeah, exactly. I highly doubt it. I mean, I might even not be here. I might be dead by now. I mean, the track I was on. I mean, I was a plane in a death spiral, and for me to pull out of it, and I certainly didn't do it alone. I have a credible wife and son, that I gotta set a good example for.
Yeah.
I have an entire health community around me supporting me. So yeah, none of this stuff is ever done alone. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and I think for me, there's all the normal kind of extraordinary things that happen to our bodies that we don't expect, whether that's skin breakdown or, phantom pain, things that I guess we're told, but we don't necessarily understand until they're actually happening to us. And then it's like, oh gosh, okay, this is what they're talking about. But I think some of the most profound moments for myself were very mental. They were very like, gosh, I just didn't think I was going to feel this way. Or I didn't think that I would be this, whatever, embarrassed, or felt this vulnerable around people, or conversely felt this powerful donning a prosthesis. There's all of these various sort of emotional triggers that suddenly arrive, and I think, wow, yeah, this whole amputee thing is kind of a wild ride. It's really it's really
For
interesting.
sure.
And even talking about you being here today, I don't come from broadcasting. I didn't go to school for any of this. I was a business person. I'm in sales and marketing. I had a career. If someone would have said, you know, in my 30s, oh yeah, you'll be an amputee, and you'll be someone that's sharing other people's stories, and you'll be recognized in the community as a conduit for, advocacy and blah, blah, blah. What on earth are you talking about? Like, that's just bizarre. But again, like you said, here we are, right? In this space, sharing this space together, and trying to get others on board and do good things. So for me, taking my own little personal spotlight and shining it on you, Mark, is that's my mission. And as you're sort of moving into this position to be more of an advocate, so let's talk about the advocacy piece of this. What do you want to bring to the community? What is it when you put yourself out there, which I really appreciate you doing so, and obviously you caught my attention where I thought, oh shit, like this guy's doing some pretty incredible stuff. And so often I see people in that particular struggle with their weight. And a lot of times people don't want to talk about it. Maybe this is someone that's willing to do so, which is a huge service to this community. Moving into that advocacy sort of trajectory, I mean, what are you looking to accomplish in this space?
Honestly, I want to change as many lives as possible, because I know there's so many people out there that are like me, or that were like me, just knew I had to make changes, desperate to make the changes, didn't know how, didn't have energy to do it, didn't have any self-belief in myself whatsoever. I've tried so many things, I might have lost a pound or two at the end of the month, or whatever. It was always nothing but frustration. And by the grace of God, I believe my wife ran into a buddy who I haven't seen in probably 15 years before this started, and by the name of Big Dan. And he had lost all his weight. And I just said, dude, how'd you do it? Help me, So that was by chance. She just, my wife just happened to be there that day. If he would have called me, said, hey, I'm doing this program, I've lost this much weight, that's the thing. So many people can, strive to change themselves, but most people are afraid to share anything about it, especially when it seems like, their personal health, it's just, they're just, everything's under lock and key. Well, that doesn't help and change anybody. It's because somebody, shared their story with me is why I'm standing here today, or sitting here talking to you, and in almost the best shape of my life, minus missing a leg, and obviously I'm older, but that's my biggest goal. I just want people to know that they can do it, and it doesn't. You don't have to. Another thing, I was also under the assumption, when I was at Vegas, I had to hit the gym, I had to work out, I had to, that's how you lose weight. That's not how you lose weight. That's how you stay in shape. You lose weight by controlling what goes in your mouth.
Yeah, let's get in the
It's that
weeds.
simple.
Yeah, let's get in the weeds on your particular, regimen. And, I always see healthy lifestyle as exactly that, lifestyle. When
Yep.
someone says to me, and you could certainly disagree with this, when someone says to me, I'm on a diet, my immediate response is, why? Because to me, a diet suggests I'm going to do this for a while, and then I'm going to go back to what I was doing before.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me, I'm like, what exactly are you trying to accomplish? Well, I need to lose 50 pounds. Okay, but what's your long-term plan? Because a diet is not sustainable. This is just my opinion, and you can hate on me for it. I have always found that the healthiest people in my particular orbit have what is referred to as a lifestyle. They live it. They eat in a way, they play in a way, they work in a way, they live their lives in a way that leans into good health practices. And I'm not talking about going to extremes. I'm not talking about, going to the gym 6 days a week. And, I'm not talking about like Mark Wahlberg shit, that you see online and you just think like, I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. to, work out in my, in my, $1 million gym in my basement and yada, yada. I'm just talking about best practices in health. And like you just said, what are you putting in your mouth? And I'm always fascinated by these people that transform themselves, like in Hollywood, right? These like action hero types. And whenever you start to really do the research on how they end up looking as good as they do, right, on camera, all they ever talk about is food. They're like, it's 80% food and 20% getting in the gym. And I think, oh my gosh, it's crazy. And that's what they get into. So tell me, and I'm sure this has evolved over years, tell me what you'd say to me. I come to you today, Mark, I gotta lose 100 pounds, man. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to get out of bed in the morning. What advice can you give me?
Well, first off, I agree with you 100% as far as what you were saying before about, being a diet. Now, the fact of the matter is everybody's on a diet. Show me your credit card statement. I'll show you what kind of diet you're on. Uh, but yeah, it's lifestyle change. You have to change the habits.
Uber Eats.
Exactly.
Frequent flyer on the DoorDash program.
Yep, a lot of people. Convenience now, don't have time. Yeah. I mean, anybody that, comes up and, just out of the blue asks me, then we just, get, I'll just ask why, you know,
Yeah.
what are you ultimately looking for? Because if you're looking for a diet, this is the wrong journey for you. This is a lifestyle change, plain and simple. I mean, if you can, can you eat a snack and drink water? Can you do that? Because if you can do that, I can show you a different way. I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of it is, eating the right food and just keep yourself hydrated. But we're also gonna surround you with a community of like-minded individuals that are gonna support you and cheer you on, the entire step. Plus you got me and my wife Jen, health coaches with me. And we're your accountability partners. If you're a lifestyle change is hard. Working on your health is hard, and you don't have to do it alone. If you do it with somebody that can guide you, answer your questions, and support you, and help keep you accountable, that makes all the difference in the world.
And what do you feel like is the thing that you really pressed into in terms of food specifically? What were the things that helped you accelerate your progress? Because there is no magic bullet, I get that. And everyone's different because all our bodies are different, all our metabolisms are different, and we all process food differently. And a lot of that is dependent on health. Our programming, let's say, from a DNA perspective. But for you specifically, what were the practices that you thought, wow, man, this really works? Like I'm really thriving in this particular practice that I'm doing with food.
Well, I found thankfully, because I didn't know how to count macros and meal prep and all that. Um, the company I use or the program I use is called AMP'D UP211. It's called the 5-in-1 plan. And what that is, that's just nutritionally balanced fuelings. I mean, basically, if you want to do this on your own, you can, but it's a lot easier when especially with on the go, everybody's on the fly. They want convenience. They want now. And that's what this gave me, but it also taught me how to eat in the process. Okay. We call them fuelings because that's just that's what we call them. It's a tool we use to perfectly balance your nutrition throughout the day. get your body in a gentle fat burn, get you feeling really good. Eliminate the sugars and majority of the carbs. We don't eliminate all carbs because our body needs those. Okay, but now, like I said, that's just a tool. Doesn't teach you how to eat. So there's one meal a day I prepared. That's called your lean and green. There's 5 to 7 ounces of lean protein and 3 servings of a healthy vegetable. That was like my hardest challenge in the beginning because it was easy. Whatever it was, I would just pick a fueling, eat it every 2.5 to 3 hours, and then make my one meal a day and make sure I drank my water. So once I wasn't really a believer, even though I saw my buddy do it, my health coach, when I had my, conversation with him before I started, it's like, oh yeah, you're going to have all this energy. You're going to feel amazing. Your inflammation, your swelling is going to be down. And I just like, yeah, bullshit. I didn't, even though I saw my buddy lost a lot of weight, I still didn't believe him. And for me, I started on a Monday. By Wednesday, most people at fat burn day 4 or 5. I hit it on Wednesday. It was I remember like it was yesterday because it was the first day. Then since I can remember that I actually wanted to get out of bed and do something with my life. So it was a huge change. I felt that fat burn. Hopped on the scale the first week. I lost 21 pounds. Eyes almost popped out of my head.
In a
So I've
week?
never seen like that. Like in 1 week.
Wow.
Yep. Luckily, I had 2 scales because I had to buy another scale because I was too fat for the other one to even work. I just got an error message. So when I lost it and then I hopped on the other scale worked too, and it said the same thing. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I was a believer. I started feeling good. First month I lost 43 pounds, and that's when I just knew that like I can do this. This is possible for me now.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I borrowed that belief my coach had in me that I didn't have in the beginning until I was able to believe it myself.
Yeah. And what is nowadays, because you're obviously moving into more of just a, like a maintenance plan, pressing into that just healthy lifestyle piece. How often do you find yourself working out or in the gym?
I'm in the gym 5 days a week now.
Okay.
Every morning I drop my son off at school. That's how I start my day. But it's different because I'm working out because I want to, not because I have to. It all evolved. It's crazy how many times I see people over the years coming to the gym, sweating hard, working hard, putting in the work, and nothing ever changes. They'll go out, they'll do the workout and go out, reward themselves with a smoothie or, a margarita or something like that.
Yeah, I
You just
earned
think
it.
all that hard work. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it amazes me. People are willing to work that hard
To fuck it
but
up.
they don't have to work that hard. Yeah, they don't. You don't have to work that hard at all. I mean, you don't have to go to the gym. Literally just watch what you put in here. You put the right thing in here, the weight will melt off you. You'll feel amazing, and then you'll want to go to the gym.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. There's something about mindset and momentum. And it's like once you get into that really rigid space about, treating your body well, man, you get really disciplined about not allowing those outside forces in. Like, no, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah.
That's not happening. And, when I was younger and I was more in sales, I was always driving constantly, just from one appointment to the next. I was like a road warrior, and God, I ate terribly. I mean, it was just, you don't realize how well and how convenient our streets are lined with just literally thousands of fast food choices that are so crazy convenient, because it's like, and I'm not talking about peak hours, because everyone that's sat in, the McDonald's drive-through at 12:30 when there's 18 cars trying to get in there. But I'm talking about when you're just buzzing around all day on sales calls, and it's so easy to pull in, pull out. You're in and out in literally 2 minutes flat. And you got, hey, there's 2,000 calories ready to go inside of you. And when I think about it now, it's like, no way. That is just, it's poison. It's going to hurt me. I'm not doing that. So I do think that you're right. Once that momentum gets created, it's extraordinary to see, your personal power shift. And then you realize, like, I'm mastering this, because so much of it was in my head before. I want to talk a little bit about how you have, like you had mentioned, allowing yourself to be really vulnerable in social media, and willing, to show your body and let people understand, what this has been like for you, and struggle through that, but also to show that this is something to be proud of, to be able to accomplish what you have. So, getting into body image. And when we become amputees, that's a huge component. The body image shift occurs. I have definitely struggled with, my own body image, and especially once I was back in the dating space, that was really, really tricky for me, just having confidence. But for yourself, going from your past life to now, how do you view yourself in the body image sort of category?
Night and day difference. In the beginning, it was, as a matter of fact, I got a post that's scheduled. Something I'll schedule my posts because I knew we had this coming up, but it'll be dropping later today. Um, and it's the transformation of when I started, and then before and after surgery. And I literally scoured all my pictures, Jen's phone, everything. I don't have a picture of me with a shirt off anywhere. You can't even find it. So things change. The more you work on yourself, the more things change. Because I remember, after the amputation, it was like that was my first medical experience ever. I was a healthy kid, I never had any first major thing happen. Hey, we're taking your foot. So, it was big pill to swallow. But, and in the beginning, embarrassment. Um, you notice everybody staring at you, even if they're not, you think they are. Um, and now, through the years, because I worked on myself and invested in myself, do I still look in the mirror, still think I look a little weird because I'm missing a leg? Yeah, I don't think it'll ever go away. But now I don't care if people stare. Like, I hear kids say robot leg. I'm like, yeah, damn it, check it out. It's a completely different mindset. I've accepted who I am and what my future is going to be. But yeah, I was in a very dark place. I mean, and everybody struggles with that. Well, I don't want to say everybody, but most people struggle with it,
I think everyone
and
that enters this community wouldn't choose it, let's say. And the
oh
ones
yeah.
that end up opting, for an amputation, that's usually after a lot of long and difficult consideration. So it's not an easy bridge to cross for anyone. But I have never met a single amputee that did not have to evolve and change their mindset in some regard on how they were processing what the interactions they were having in the world were like, because it does change everything. It changes
Mhm.
everything personally in your own personal space, and it also changes everything externally, because now the world sees you different. And so much of how we manage that has to do with, okay, where am I at in that particular process in my mind? Where am I at with this? Is this ever going to feel normal? So to be able to challenge yourself, not only as an amputee with that, but also stare down the weight that you knew you had to lose is, I mean, that's a double whammy right there. I mean, that's not easy, because people will talk about, that kind of dramatic weight loss all the time. And that in itself is a huge triumph. Have you ever watched the 600 Pound Life series?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So I've seen it a few times. There's this, I want to say it's on TLC, but it's a documentary format where they talk about these people that, are 600 plus pounds. And usually the narrative, it's somewhat similar in the sense that they kind of get into their personal lives. They go along with them on their weight loss journey. They recommend, them to, a specific physician for weight loss, things like that. But so often, those situations, they're just absolutely desperate. I mean, they're so desperate. I mean, these people, for lack of a better phrase, they have no life. I mean,
No.
they are just shut down. And I would say managing the external, the looks, the stares, the judgment of being, let's say in that kind of weight category, I would think is way harder than being an amputee, because very often there is a faction, I think, of the population that views amputees as, kind of badass, like kind of strong, have been through struggle, have been resilient. But let's face it, like people that are overweight to that degree, there isn't a whole lot of respect attached to that.
No.
And that's unfortunate. Because usually the way this show is sort of built is it sort of funnels down to, okay, this is what kind of caused them to end up in that place. And it's usually something very painful. And it might be from childhood. It might be through addiction. It might be through abuse. There's something there, because I don't think anyone like wants to live that life. No,
Oh no.
not at all. So for you to put yourself out there, to talk about it openly, because like you said, these are sometimes like the lock and key, like the dark secrets that people don't want to talk about. I think that opens a door, and it's very welcoming for people. So given that sentiment, how would someone go about engaging you? And let's say through advocacy or mentorship or coaching, what is the message that you want to give to our audience to say, hey, if you want to talk to me, here's how you do it.
You can really find me like I said, I'm pretty loud. So whether it's, Instagram or Facebook or, look me up on, I guess there's no phone book anymore. But I'm pretty loud. I'm pretty easy to find. And I just want people to know that they can do it too. There's absolutely zero special about me. I had people that believed in me. I made a decision, and I just wanted to set my family up and my kid up for success. My son also, if it wasn't for me, he'd probably be huge too, because he also has a, slow metabolism. He's a bigger kid, but he stays in shape, and he's does the best he can because he's watching me. I was bringing all this junk into my house, and not only being an amputee, you know, we're extra work, Rick. You know that.
Yeah,
It just it doesn't matter. And as I age, I'm certainly not going to get things aren't going to get easier for me.
no,
So I didn't want to dictate my wife's life, in our later years. I didn't want to make, that she had to take care of me or do this. If something happens, God forbid, then we'll deal with that. But I didn't want her to have to take care of me or change her life or our future just because I can control what I put in my mouth. So, that's find a why. Okay. Like I explained a couple of my whys, not being able to transfer myself, not being able to protect my family, not want to dictate my wife's future. I want us to be able to live the healthiest future we can. And I want people to know that they don't. literally, there's no special way. Make the decision, and don't try to do it alone. Call me, call a friend. Just take the first step. It's not about working out. It's literally about just learn what to put in your body and feel it right. If there's a million ways to do it on your own. I use AMP'D in the 5-1 because it worked for me and it was simple and figured out. And don't be afraid to invest in yourself either. That's the biggest excuse I hear is, oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's too expensive. It cost me $15 a day to change my life. I was guilty of the same thing when I first had my health assessment. It was a little under $400 to sign up, but that's a month worth of food. That's your coaching. That's everything. So you don't spend money the rest of the month besides for your dinner. So I ended up saving money on program, but I still waited 3 weeks before I started because I was like, oh, it's kind of expensive. I had the same mindset everybody else does. So my dad goes, "You're an idiot." He goes, "What's your truck payment?" My truck payment was around the same back then, 350, 400, something there. He's like, so that payment's fine for a vehicle to get you to work and back. You're not going to invest in a vehicle that gets you the rest of your life. You're a damn fool.
Ooh.
And that's when I made the phone call.
Good advice.
Yeah, it was. He's got tons of good advice. So I just wish I'd listened to all of it a lot earlier.
Yeah, me too. I'm in the same camp. I'm like, oh, he was right.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So do it. Pick up that 1,000-pound phone that everybody, that's the hardest 4-letter word for anybody to get out of their mouth usually is help. Help.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed. I asked for help. I didn't do any of this alone. I couldn't have done it alone. It goes whether it's my health journey, whether it's the alcohol, whatever it was. I needed help.
Yeah.
It's not below you to ask for help.
I always think about a quote that really resonated with me, which was, to master this life, you have to love yourself like your life depends on it. And that always sticks with me. And I really think that it's relevant to this conversation, because think about how much we punish ourselves and we don't even realize we're doing it until we end up in a situation.
Oh yeah. We are our worst own critics. Yeah. If we could just learn to talk to ourselves like we talk to our friends or our family, be a whole different story.
For sure. I really appreciate you being here. I'm very much looking forward to getting this out to the audience. The everyday amputees like yourself, the everyday warriors like yourself, the everyday heroes, people that are just doing it and doing it well. Mark, thank you so much. And best of luck to you. Please don't be a stranger. My name is Rick Bontkowski. This is the AMP'D UP211 Podcast, and that's going to wrap it up. I want to wish everyone health and happiness. We'll see you next time.